welcome to History's Lullaby, where we listen, we relax, and we drift into dreamland. My name's Henry, and it's a true pleasure to be your guide tonight. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a little adventure, though trust me, you'd probably prefer staying under your blankets. See, we're talking about the 1812 Russian campaign, and let's just say you might not make it past day 3. But don't worry, we'll take it slow, like a gentle march through history, just without the freezing toes. So, before you settle in, if this little bedtime ritual speaks to you, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. It's like passing a warm blanket around the campfire, you know? Now, if you'd like, lower the lights just enough to let stories breathe. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. You wake up on the first day of this, let's call it a historical field trip. The year is 1812, and you're part of Napoleon's Grand Army. Wait, no, scratch that. You're not a general, not a noble, just a regular soldier, probably conscripted from some small town in France, Germany, or Italy. The tent canvas above you is stiff with frost, and when you sit up, your wool uniform scratches at your skin like sandpaper. Fun fact, these uniforms weren't designed for Siberian winters. They're more look sharp on parade than stay alive in -30. You stumble outside, and the first thing that hits you isn't the cold, well, maybe a little, but the smell. Horses, sweat, unwashed bodies, and something that might be last night's stew. The camp is a mess of soldiers cursing in a dozen languages, trying to light fires with damp wood. Officers in slightly fancier uniforms bark orders, their breath forming white clouds. You notice some guys rubbing snow on their faces. Apparently, it's supposed to prevent frostbite? Spoiler, it doesn't. Breakfast is nothing, or maybe a hard biscuit that's been frozen solid. You try to chew it, but it's like biting into a rock. Someone passes around a flask of spirits which burns going down but doesn't really warm you. That's when you realize this isn't a movie. There's no cozy inn ahead, no hot chocolate, just miles of snow, a distant city called Moscow, and a whole lot of uncertainty. It's noon now, and you're marching. Marching, marching, marching. The snow's turned to slush, a disgusting mix of ice, mud, and, well, let's not think too hard about what else might be in there. Your boots, cheap, leather things, are already soaking wet. Every step feels like you're dragging weights, and the guy next to you keeps complaining about blisters. But hey, at least you're moving, right? Wrong. That slush is about to become your worst enemy. Up ahead, officers are arguing. Some wave maps, others point to the horizon. Napoleon's somewhere up there, probably in his fancy carriage, but you can't see him. All you hear is, Moscow is close, and just a few more days. Yeah, sure, you've been hearing that for weeks. Meanwhile, the supply wagons are getting fewer. Where'd all the food go? Nobody's sure. Maybe the horses ate it. Maybe it got left behind, or maybe some clever sergeant sold it. Welcome to Army Logistics, 1812 style. The skies are dull grey, like someone painted over the sun. The air smells of iron and snow, and every time you breathe in, it stings your lungs. You notice the guy in front of you is wearing a fur hat. Where did he get that? Probably looted from a village. You didn't think to grab one. Rookie mistake. Frost is already forming on the edges of your cap, turning it into a tiny ice crown. Not as cool as it sounds. Suddenly, there's a commotion. A horse has collapsed, its sides heaving. Soldiers rush to cut it loose from the wagon, but the poor thing can't get up. Someone pulls out a knife, and you look away. You'll probably be eating horse meat tonight, if there's any left. That's another fun fact. The Grand Army started off with fancy meals, but by now, it's whatever they can find. Or kill. The march goes on. Your legs feel like lead, your feet are numb, and you're so hungry you could eat that frozen biscuit again. But here's the thing, you're not even close to Moscow yet. This is just the beginning. The real cold hasn't hit, but it's coming. Like a bad horror movie, except instead of ghosts, it's hypothermia. Dusk creeps in like a silent thief, painting the sky in watery hues of purple and grey. The temperature's dropping faster than a cannonball. You can feel it in your bones, a deep, aching chill that starts at your toes and creeps up to your spine. Soldiers around you are starting to look different. Their movements are slower, their voices slurred, and some have strange white patches on their cheeks and noses. That's frostbite, by the way. The first warning sign that your body's losing the battle against the cold. You pass a wagon loaded with supplies, but it's abandoned. Some poor soul tried to light a fire under it for warmth, but the wood's too wet. Instead, there's a pile of frozen bread rolls next to it, each one hard as a cannonball. You bend to pick one up, but your fingers stick to it. Ouch. You yank your hand back, half expecting to see skin torn off. Luckily, it's just ice. Unlucky for the guy who tried this earlier and lost a few fingertips. Then you hear a scream. Not the usual battle scream, but a high-pitched animalistic wail. You turn to see a soldier lying in the snow, clutching his foot. His boots stuck to the ground, frozen solid. He's trying to pull it off, but every tug makes him howl. A medic rushes over, but all he can do is take out a knife. Wait, no, he's not going to. Yep, he is. He starts cutting the boot around the foot, careful not to slice the flesh. But when the boot finally comes off, the man's toes are still stuck to the sole. They're white, rigid, like little icicles. That's when you realize, in this cold, even your own body can betray you. The horses are in worse shape. Most of them are either dead or too weak to stand. Their breath freezes into thick crusts around their nostrils, and their manes are clumps of ice. Some soldiers are trying to share their meagre blankets with the animals, but it's useless. A captain rides by on a horse that looks half dead, shouting orders that no one can hear over the wind. His words turn to frost as soon as they leave his mouth, hanging in the air like tiny crystals. As the last sliver of sun dips below the horizon, someone lights a torch. The flame sputters in the freezing air, casting long, wavering shadows on the snow. But the torch doesn't give much warmth, just a false promise. You huddle closer to the guy next to you, both of you shivering like leaves. The cold isn't just a sensation anymore, it's a presence, a predator waiting to pick you off. And it's only the first day. Night falls like a frozen blanket, smothering the last light. The wind picks up, howling through the camp like a pack of starving wolves. You're huddled in a makeshift bivouac, just a few branches and a piece of tattered canvas sharing body heat with 3 other soldiers. Their names? You don't remember, and they probably don't remember yours. In this cold, names are the first things to freeze away. Your stomach growls, but there's no food. The last of the biscuit crumbled into dust in your pocket, and the horse meat someone found earlier was too frozen to cook. You try to suck on a piece of ice to keep your mouth from drying out, but it just makes your teeth ache. The guy next to you is mumbling about his wife back in Paris, but his words slur into a groan. Is he talking, or just shivering? It's hard to tell. Then you notice something strange. The ground beneath you is vibrating? No, not vibrating, thumping. Soft, steady thumps, like a distant drum. You strain to listen and realize it's the sound of soldiers' feet. Thousands of them, marching in the dark. But wait, you thought everyone was camping? No, some poor souls are still moving, ordered to push ahead or guard the rear. Their boots crunch on the snow, a rhythm that blends with the wind. It's almost hypnotic if it wasn't so terrifying. A sudden flash lights up the sky, then a boom. Not cannon fire, but something else. Someone shouts, "Powder wagon," and you duck, expecting shrapnel. But there's no explosion, just a dull roar. The powder must have frozen solid before it could blow. Still, the fire from the wagon's wheels, someone tried to set them alight for warmth, casts an eerie glow on the snow. You can see chunks of wood and metal frozen into the ground, like a giant's discarded toys. The cold is worse now, a physical force that presses against your chest, making it hard to breathe. You curl into a ball, trying to protect your face. Your nose feels numb, your ears tingle, and your fingers, even inside gloves, are pins and needles. You hear a soldier nearby stop shivering, which is never a good sign. You want to check on him, but you can't move. Your muscles are too stiff, your mind too foggy. Is this how it ends? Freezing to death on the first night, miles from home? Wait, no, you can't give up yet. You take a deep breath, feeling the cold air sear your throat, and force yourself to move. Just a little wiggle of your toes, a flex of your fingers. Anything to keep the blood moving. The guy next to you moans again, but this time it sounds like a laugh. Coldest bedtime story ever, he mumbles. Yeah, no kidding. You close your eyes, but sleep feels like a trap. If you fall asleep, will you ever wake up? The first light of day 2 is a watery grey, barely piercing the frozen mist. You wake up with your blanket crusted in ice, your hair stuck to the canvas above. For a second, you think you're dead. Then the pain hits, aching joints, a throbbing head, and feet that feel like blocks of wood. You try to stand, but your legs buckle. The guy next to you is still asleep, or maybe not. His face is pale, his breath gone. You poke him with a stick, but he doesn't move. Yeah, he didn't make it through the night. Around you, the camp is a graveyard of frozen bodies and abandoned gear. Some soldiers are trying to loot the dead, stealing boots, blankets, even that fur hat you saw yesterday. A medic walks by, carrying a bag of saws and forceps. Wait, saws? Oh right, the frostbite. You check your own fingers and toes. They're red and swollen, but no white patches yet. Good. Maybe you can avoid the amputation table. Spoiler, probably not, but let's stay positive. Now, if this were a video game, you'd get a menu of survival tips. Well, lucky you. This is real life, but I've got some time travel survival advice anyway. First off, ditch those leather boots. They're great for looking cool, terrible for staying warm. Find some felt or fur, maybe from that dead horse over there. Wrap your feet in rags before putting on any footwear. Trust me, layers are your best friend here. Next, fire. Not just for warmth, but for sanity. If you can find dry wood, good luck. Build a fire pit below the snow line. Dig a hole, line it with stones, and keep the fire small. Burning wet wood gives off smoke, which attracts Cossacks, but freezing to death attracts, well, death. Pick your poison. Also, never ever fall asleep near a fire alone. You might roll into it, or worse, the fire might go out, and you'll freeze before you wake up. Food-wise, forget about rations. You need fat, lots of it. If you see a dead animal, skin it immediately. Fat under the skin is gold. Cook it over the fire, but if you can't, eat it raw. Yeah, gross, but raw fat has more calories than cooked. Also, melt snow for water, but don't eat it. Eating snow lowers your body temperature. Use a metal canteen if you have one, or a hollowed out bone. Lastly, stay moving. The moment you stop, the cold wins. Even if it's just pacing in circles, keep those muscles working. And if you see someone struggling, help them. You might need their help tomorrow. In this kind of cold, teamwork isn't just nice, it's survival. Okay, enough tips. The officers are shouting again, ordering everyone to march. You look at the frozen body next to you, then at the endless snow ahead. Day 2 is starting, and you're already exhausted. But hey, at least you know a few tricks now. Maybe, just maybe, you'll make it to day 3. Don't get too confident though. The worst is still coming. The second day drags on like a bad dream, each step heavier than the last. The snow isn't just slush anymore, it's a solid sheet of ice, glinting in the weak sun like a million tiny knives. You've wrapped your boots in rags, just like the survival tip said, but the cold still seeps through, numbing your feet until they feel like they belong to someone else. Ahead, a soldier slips and falls, sliding down a frozen riverbank. He doesn't get up. The landscape is a blur of white and grey, endless and featureless. You pass through villages that were once bustling, now empty shells with doors hanging off hinges and roofs caved in. Some soldiers try to break into cellars for food, but they're either empty or filled with ice. A few lucky ones find barrels of vodka, which they swig greedily. Bad idea, by the way. Alcohol might feel warm, but it actually lowers your body temperature. No one told them that. Around noon, the wind picks up again, driving snow into your face like tiny needles. You pull your collar up, trying to protect your nose and mouth, but the fabric is stiff with frost. The guy next to you is coughing, a deep, wet sound that rattles in his chest. Pneumonia, probably. In this cold, that's just as deadly as frostbite. You move away a little, guilty but survival-minded. Then you hear the drums. Real ones, not the thumping from last night. It's the retreat signal. Wait, retreat? But we haven't even reached Moscow yet. Oh, right. Napoleon did reach Moscow, but it was burned and empty. So now the Grand Army is turning around, trying to get back to France. Only problem, the Russians are waiting, and winter is in full swing. This isn't a march anymore, it's a panicked retreat. The pace picks up, but so does the chaos. Soldiers push and shove, trampling over each other in their rush to get south. Wagons get stuck in ice, blocking the road, so they're abandoned. You see cannons tipped over, their barrels frozen solid. Someone shouts that Cossacks are nearby, and the crowd surges forward, leaving the weak and weary behind. You grab onto a cart for support, your fingers sticking to the frozen wood. By afternoon, you're starving and delirious. You spot a patch of something dark in the snow, maybe animal droppings? No, worse, it's human excrement, frozen solid. Some poor soul didn't make it to a latrine. You look away, stomach churning. This isn't war anymore, it's a fight for basic survival. The sun starts to set again, painting the sky in sickly oranges and purples. You're still moving, but your legs are on autopilot. You don't think about Moscow, or France, or even the warm bed you left behind. All you can think about is putting one foot in front of the other, and praying that night doesn't find you alone in the snow. The second night falls like a guillotine, slicing the last hope of warmth from the air. The wind has turned into a howling monster, whipping snow into vertical walls that make it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. You're no longer part of an army, just a shivering mass of bodies stumbling over each other in the dark. Somewhere in the distance, a trumpet sounds a retreat, but the notes freeze mid-air and shatter like glass. You trip over a frozen corpse, its arms still raised as if begging for mercy. The sight doesn't shock you anymore, just another obstacle in the snow. Someone lights a torch, but the flame is blue and sputtering, barely cutting through the storm. The light reveals a horrific scene, soldiers lying everywhere, some still twitching, others already rigid as statues. A medic is working by the torchlight, his saw glinting, except he's not amputating frostbitten limbs anymore. He's prying frozen bodies apart that have stuck together in their final moments. Then, a strange glow appears ahead. It's not a torch or a campfire, more like a giant, pulsating orange blob. As you get closer, you realise it's a gunpowder wagon, the same kind you saw yesterday, but this one's on fire. Wait, why would anyone set fire to gunpowder? Because they're desperate. Soldiers have climbed onto the wagon, tearing off planks to feed the fire, even though the gunpowder kegs are right there. It's frozen. Someone yells. It won't explode. Famous last words. You stay back, smart enough to know that frozen gunpowder is still gunpowder, but others aren't so lucky. They crowd around the fire, holding out frostbitten hands when, boom. The explosion isn't massive, but it's enough to send chunks of burning wood and frozen metal flying. You duck behind a snowbank, feeling the shockwave ripple through the ice. When you look up, the wagon is a smouldering crater surrounded by bodies. Some burned, some frozen, some both. The worst part? The explosion actually warmed the air for a few seconds. A cruel tease. You huddle with a group of strangers, sharing what little warmth you have. One guy is wearing a woman's shawl he found in an abandoned house pink, with lace. He doesn't care. It's warmer than nothing. Another is eating a piece of leather from a saddle, chewing slowly like it's a fine steak. You try to sleep, but every time you close your eyes, you see that exploding wagon. The cold is inside your bones now, a constant ache that throbs with every heartbeat. Someone starts singing a song from home, a soft, sad melody. Others join in, their voices cracking in the cold. It's a strange moment of unity in the chaos, but the song fades when a soldier nearby stops breathing. No one has the energy to bury him, so they just cover him with snow, like tucking him into a frozen grave. You wonder if that'll be your fate too, just another body left in the snow, a footnote in history. The night goes on, endless and merciless. You count the hours by the shivering, each minute feeling like an hour. The wind never stops, the cold never relents, and the fear never goes away. All you can do is survive this night, because tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow, will be even worse. The third day breaks with a sickly yellow sun hanging low in a sky streaked with purple. You wake up buried in snow, your breath having formed a tiny igloo around your face. For a moment, you think you've gone blind. The world is too bright, every snowflake a diamond shard reflecting the sun's weak rays. Then the pain hits. Your eyelids are stuck together with frost, your lips are cracked and bleeding, and when you try to move, your joints make a sound like breaking glass. You pull yourself out of the snowdrift only to stumble over a row of bodies. They're arranged in a neat line, as if someone tried to tuck them in for the night. But their faces tell the truth. Blue lips, frozen tears, and eyes wide open but sightless. A medic's journal lies open next to them, pages fluttering in the wind. You pick it up, careful not to let your fingers stick to the frozen paper. Day 23 of retreat, it reads. Amputations 47. Survival rate 10%. Blood freezes mid-surgery, forming 2 cm ice layers on tables. You drop the journal feeling sick. So that's why the medic had that look yesterday. He knows most of these guys are already dead, even if they're still standing. Ahead, a group of soldiers is gathered around a makeshift operating table. A door torn from a house, propped on 2 barrels. A man is lying on it, his leg wrapped in a bloody rag. The surgeon, if you can call him that, has a saw in one hand and a flask of vodka in the other. He takes a swig, then pours the rest over the man's leg. No anesthesia, he mutters, more to himself than to anyone. Blood's too thick to flow anyway. The saw starts moving, but instead of screams, there's just a strange crunching sound. The man's face is blank, his eyes rolled back. Is he unconscious or dead? You don't wait to find out. You reach a river, but it's not frozen solid, just covered in a thin layer of ice with water rushing beneath. Soldiers are trying to cross, breaking through the ice with their boots. Some fall in, and the water, probably around 0°C, might as well be liquid nitrogen. They surface screaming, but their clothes freeze solid within minutes, turning them into human icicles. Others make it to the other side, only to collapse from hypothermia. You watch as a man's beard freezes into a solid chunk, his breath turning to ice before it even leaves his mouth. By noon, you're in a full-blown delirium. You see palm trees swaying in the distance, hear the sound of waves crashing. For a second, you think you've made it back to the Mediterranean. Then a gust of wind hits, and the illusion shatters. You're still in Russia, still freezing, still starving. A soldier next to you is talking to a tree, asking it for directions to Paris. Another is eating snow, despite the survival tip. His tongue is probably stuck to his palate by now. You spot something metallic in the snow, a button from a French uniform. You pick it up, rubbing the cold metal between your fingers. It's engraved with Napoleon's eagle. A week ago, this would have meant something. Pride, loyalty, honor. Now it's just a piece of frozen trash, like everything else in this godforsaken place. You toss it away, and it lands with a tiny ping, lost in the snow. The afternoon brings a new horror. The snow is turning red. Not from blood, though there's plenty of that, but from the clay beneath. The retreating army has trampled the snow into a slush of mud and gore, turning the landscape into a nightmare painting. You walk through it, each step squishing beneath you, as if the earth itself is weeping for what's happening here. As dusk approaches, you find yourself alone. The crowd has surged ahead, or fallen behind, or died. You're standing in the middle of a vast, white nothingness, with only the wind for company. You don't have the energy to cry, or to be afraid, just a deep, overwhelming tiredness. Maybe it's better this way, you think, to lie down and let the snow cover you, like a gentle blanket. Maybe you'll dream of warm fires and soft beds. Yeah, that sounds nice. The third night is a beast unlike any you've faced. The wind has a new tone, something between a wail and a growl, as if the very air is angry at your persistence to live. You're stumbling through what used to be a road, now a trench of frozen bodies and splintered wagons. Someone's discarded saber sticks out of the snow, its hilt encrusted in ice like a forgotten exclamation point. Ahead, a gunpowder wagon lies on its side, its wooden panels split by the cold. But this isn't the exploded one from last night. This is a fresh carcass, its kegs still intact but coated in frost. A dozen soldiers are prying at the wood, not to steal powder, but to burn the wagon itself. It's dry. One yells, his voice hoarse. They stack the planks and light a fire, but the flames struggle against the cold, barely reaching knee-height. You join them, holding out your hands, now red and blistered from the constant thaw-freeze cycles. The heat is a tease, like a distant memory of summer. Suddenly, the ground shakes. It's not an earthquake, but the thundering hooves of Cossack raiders. Their lances glint in the firelight as they charge through the camp, shouting in a language you can't understand, but whose meaning is clear: death. Soldiers scatter like leaves, some trying to fight, others crawling into the snow to hide. You dive behind the gunpowder wagon, praying the frost on the kegs will make them look like boulders. The Cossacks pass by, their horses' breath forming clouds that mingle with the smoke from the fire. When the noise fades, you peek out. The fire has died, and the soldiers who were warming themselves are either gone or lying still. You're alone again, but for a different reason. This time it's silence that's terrifying. The kind of silence that comes before a storm, only this storm has been raging for days. You notice something odd. The frozen gunpowder kegs have strange patterns on them, like lace made of ice. You touch one, and the ice cracks, revealing black powder beneath. So much power, just frozen. You start walking again, not sure where. Maybe south, maybe nowhere. The snow is deeper here, up to your knees, and each step requires a Herculean effort. You pass a signpost, its letters worn away by the elements, but you can still make out Moscow pointing east. Funny, you think. We came all this way and now we're running from it like scared mice. Napoleon's grand dream is now a frozen nightmare, and you're just a tiny part of its collapse. In the distance you see a faint glow. It's not a fire or a wagon explosion, it's the horizon. The sky is turning a deep, dark blue, the kind that comes right before dawn. Is this the third dawn? You've lost track. But something feels different. Maybe it's the knowledge that you've made it this far, or maybe it's just the cold finally numbing your brain. You find a fallen tree, its roots exposed and frozen into the shape of a chair. You sit down, too exhausted to care if it's comfortable. The wind has died down a bit, and the silence is almost peaceful. You look up at the stars, which seem brighter here, as if the cold has polished them. For the first time in days, you're not thinking about survival, just about how small you are, how small this entire disaster is in the grand scheme of things. A thought creeps into your mind. Maybe this is how history works. Not with grand speeches or heroic battles, but with ordinary people freezing in the snow, wondering where it all went wrong. You close your eyes, feeling the snowflakes land on your face, melting into tiny drops of water. It's almost like a kiss from the sky, a gentle good night after a long, hard journey. As the third day's dawn stretches across the sky, the world looks different, washed clean by the night's snow, almost peaceful. You're still sitting on that frozen route, wrapped in a patchwork of stolen rags, but something has shifted inside you. The panic is gone, replaced by a strange calm. You watch as the first rays of sun hit the snow, turning it into a sea of diamonds. For a moment, you forget the cold, the hunger, the dead bodies littering the ground. It's just you and the sunrise, a silent audience to history's cruelest show. A thought drifts into your mind like a feather. This is why they call it the Great Retreat. Not because it was strategic, but because it was a mass exodus of men trying to outrun death. Historians will argue about Napoleon's mistakes. Did he underestimate the Russian winter, or was it logistics that failed? But you know the truth. It was all of it, and none of it. It was just too cold, too far, too much. You stand up, surprisingly steady. Your legs ache, your feet are numb, but you feel alive. Maybe not for long, but in this moment, you're breathing, watching, feeling. You take a step, then another, moving southward toward nothing in particular, just away from the frozen horror behind you. The snow crunches beneath your boots, a steady rhythm that matches your heartbeat. Along the way, you pass a few other survivors, haggard, silent, but moving. No one speaks, no one makes eye contact. There's no need. You're all part of the same nightmare, walking ghosts telling the same story without words. A horse stumbles by, its ribs poking through its coat, but it keeps going. You both understand quitting is not an option, even if survival feels like a miracle. The sun climbs higher, but it brings little warmth. You notice a patch of green peeking through the snow moss maybe, or a hardy weed. It's a tiny sign of life, a reminder that even in the coldest hell, nature finds a way. You kneel to touch it, feeling the softness against your frozen fingers. It's a small comfort, but in this place, small comforts are everything. By midday, you reach a crossroads. One path is trampled, littered with debris. The other is untouched, a pristine blanket of snow. You hesitate, then take the untrodden path. Maybe it leads to somewhere better, maybe not. But it's a choice, and in a world where choices have been stripped from you, that feels important. As the afternoon wears on, you start to feel drowsy. The warmth of the sun, real or imagined, lulls you. You find a sheltered spot behind a rock, out of the wind. You know you shouldn't fall asleep, but you're so tired. Just a quick rest, you tell yourself. You curl up, using your arms as a pillow, and close your eyes. In your mind, you're not in Russia anymore. You're back home, sitting by a fire, drinking something hot. The air is warm, the blankets are soft, and there's no sound but the crackling of the flames. You smile, feeling the tension leave your body. Maybe this is the end, or maybe it's just a dream. Either way, it's peaceful. The wind whispers through the rocks, a gentle lullaby. You sink deeper into the snow, which feels surprisingly soft now, like a feather bed. The world fades away, replaced by darkness and warmth. And as you drift off, you hear a voice, maybe mine, maybe your own, saying softly, "Well done. You made it through the night. Now rest. Sleep well, little soldier. The war is over, at least in your dreams." And so, the story fades like footprints in the snow. You're not sure if our soldier survived, or if he became just another statistic in the frozen annals of history. But that's the thing about history. It's made of millions of small stories, each one a heartbeat in the cold. As you lie here, warm in your bed, think about that. Think about how lucky we are to have blankets that don't freeze, food that doesn't need to be fought for, and warmth that's just a switch away. The horrors of 1812 are far behind us, but they remind us of the fragility of life and the power of a little warmth, whether it's from a fire, a blanket, or a kind word. So now, let your eyes close. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the mattress, the softness of your pillow. The room is quiet, the air is warm, and there's no need to march anymore. Just rest. Maybe you'll dream of Napoleon's army, but not the freezing part. Maybe dream of them marching through sunny fields, laughing and singing with no snow in sight. Or maybe you'll dream of nothing at all, just the peaceful blackness of sleep. Either way, know that you're safe here, warm here, and ready for a good night's rest. The stories of the past are here to lull you, not to scare you. So take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and drift off. Good night, sleep tight, and may your dreams be free of frozen toes and howling winds. Hey guys, tonight we're going back to a time when Europe was about to get hit by the ultimate plot twist. A pandemic so dramatic, it would rewrite history. Spoiler alert, you might want to keep your modern hand sanitizer handy, because we're diving into the 14th century, right into the heart of the Black Death. But don't worry, I'll be your survival coach, even if medieval Florence might make your 21st century commute look like a spa day. So, before you settle in, if this little bedtime ritual speaks to you, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. Now, if you'd like, lower the lights just enough to let stories breathe. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. It's dawn in Florence, 1347. The first thing you notice is the smell, not the romantic scent of fresh espresso or leather-bound books, but a thick, earthy mix of damp straw, unwashed bodies, and something metallic hanging in the air. You stretch your arms, feeling the scratch of wool against your skin. No cozy pajamas here, just scratchy medieval linen. Your feet slide into wooden clogs as you step outside, the cobblestones uneven underfoot. The skies are soft grey, like someone spilled ink in a bowl of milk, and the streets are already buzzing with life, or what passes for life in a city on the brink. You duck under a laundry line strung between two stone buildings, damp shirts swaying like ghostly flags. A vendor pushes a cart of turnips, shouting in Italian that sounds more like a rough cough than a language. A group of monks shuffles by, their brown robes dragging through the mud, muttering prayers that feel more like a nervous habit than spiritual devotion. You wipe a fleck of spit from your cheek. Someone just coughed from a second-floor window. Gross, but normal here. People don't know about germs yet. They think diseases are caused by bad air, or God's wrath. Joke's on them, right? Sort of. As you wander toward the Arno River, you notice something odd. A man slumped against a wall, his face pale, sweat pooling on his brow. His hand clutches his neck, where a lump the size of a chicken egg bulges under his skin. He groans, and a woman beside him, probably his wife, wrings her hands, whispering, "Santa Maria, protege me." You remember the history books, those lumps of buboes, the first sign of the plague. The flea on your sleeve? Oh, right, the one you flicked off absent-mindedly earlier. That little jerk just might be carrying Yersinia pestis, the bacteria that's about to kill a third of Europe. Oops. You check your watch out of habit, but of course, there's no Apple Watch here, just a sundial on a church wall, its shadow inching toward mid-morning. The river smells like rotting fish and sewage, but people are still filling buckets with water to drink. You cringe, knowing what's coming. In a few hours, that man with the bubo will be dead, and his wife will start showing symptoms too. But for now, the city goes on, blissfully unaware that invisible death is hitching rides on fleas and rats. A street performer juggles rusty knives, his audience laughing nervously. A beggar with a missing finger tugs at your cloak, asking for alms. You pat your pocket, realizing you have no coins, just a modern USB stick that'll look like magic here, that probably won't buy bread. Maybe you should have packed a few silver coins? Too late now. You'll have to wing it, like a medieval MacGyver, but without the duct tape. The sun climbs higher, casting sharper shadows. You notice more people clutching their armpits or necks, their faces flushed with fever. A cart rattles by, piled high with corpses wrapped in rags, their toes sticking out like pale exclamation points. The cart driver cracks a whip, shouting, "Make way for the dead!" Nobody argues. Death is just another vendor here, hawking its wares on every corner. You pause at a bakery, the smell of fresh bread momentarily overriding the stench of decay. The baker, a stout woman with flour on her apron, slides a round loaf across the counter. You hesitate, should you eat it? Bread's safe, right? Probably. But then you remember, medieval ovens are hot, maybe hot enough to kill any bacteria on the surface. You hope. She gives you a weary smile, and you realise she's probably lost family already. Everyone here has. The plague isn't a headline, it's the air they breathe. As you take a bite of bread, you feel a tickle on your arm. Another flea. You swat it too late. Its tiny jaws have already pricked your skin. Panic bubbles up. Wait, do you have modern immunity? No, idiot. Your 21st century antibodies are useless against 14th century bacteria. If that flea was infected, you've got about 4-8 hours before those buboes pop up. Cue the dramatic foreshadowing music. You start walking faster, heart pounding. Where's the nearest river? Can you wash the flea bite? No, they'll think you're possessed if you start ranting about germs. Maybe find a herbalist. But wait, medieval medicine is basically guesswork. Leeches, bloodletting, herbs that smell nice but do nothing. You're better off hiding in a cellar with a jar of honey and praying for a miracle. Or, wait, didn't the outline mention something about survival tips? But no, that's later. For now, you're stuck in the dawn of a nightmare with no clue how to survive the day. The church bells ring mid-morning, their sound heavy like a coffin lid. You follow the sound to a square, where a preacher stands on a crate, screaming about sin and damnation. The plague is God's punishment, he roars, spittle flying. A few people nod solemnly, others cross themselves and hurry away. You want to shout, it's bacteria, not sin, but you'd probably get burned as a heretic. Best to keep quiet and hope your modern knowledge of epidemiology doesn't leak out in a fever dream. By now, your feet ache from the clogs, and your throat is dry from the dusty air. You spot a well in the corner of the square, its wooden bucket swaying gently. But wait, didn't the survival tips say to avoid Thames water? No, that's London. Florence's water is from the Arno, which is basically an open sewer. Maybe stick to wine? Even babies drink diluted wine here. Smart move, medieval folks. You flag down a tavern keeper who pours you a cup of something murky and sour. It burns going down, but at least it's probably sterilised by alcohol. Cheers to that. As you sip, you watch a group of children kick a ball made of rags in the street. They laugh, unaware that half of them will be dead by winter. It's a harsh thought, but that's the reality here. Life is cheap, death is cheap, and the only constant is the fear humming in the background like a distant drumbeat. You check the sundial again, almost noon. Time's flying, even when you're staring down a potential death sentence. Maybe you should find a place to hide? But where? The rich are fleeing to country manors, but you're broke. The poor are staying, hoping prayer or ignorance will save them. You're stuck in the middle, a time-travelling tourist with no map and no vaccine. Just then a man bumps into you, coughing violently into his sleeve. His breath smells like rotting meat. You take a step back, trying not to gag. He mumbles an apology in Latin, then staggers away, leaving a trail of sweat on the cobblestones. You wonder if he'll make it through the day. You wonder if you will. The heat of the morning sun beats down, and you realise something grim. This is just the beginning. The plague hasn't even hit full swing yet. The real horror starts when the bodies pile up, when the streets are empty, except for cartloads of dead, when the living are too afraid to even bury their loved ones. But for now, it's just a few sick people, a few too many funerals, a few fleas hopping from rat to human to rat. You take a deep breath, trying to steady your nerves. Maybe focus on the little things, the way the light hits the Duomo's unfinished dome, the intricate patterns on a merchant's cloak, the way a stray cat curls up in a sunbeam, oblivious to the chaos. In another timeline, this could be a peaceful moment. In this one, it's the calm before the storm. As you turn to leave the square, you feel a sharp pain in your leg. You've stepped on a nail hidden in the mud. Great, now you're at risk of tetanus too. Medieval Florence. 1, you 0. You pull the nail out, wincing, and wrap a rag around the wound. At least it's not a bubo yet. The tavern keeper calls out, "More wine, stranger." You nod, grateful for the distraction. As he pours, you ask, "How's business?" He shrugs. Busy. People want to forget, or they think wine kills the bad air. You resist the urge to say, "It doesn't," and just take another sip. Ignorance is bliss, even when it's deadly. So here you are, in the dawn of a city that doesn't know it's dying. The flea on your arm might be your undoing, the bread in your stomach might be your last meal, and the doctor you'll meet at noon might try to bleed you dry. But hey, at least you're not stuck in a Zoom meeting, right? Silver linings, folks. Now, as we ease into the next chapter, remember, this is just the first day. Things are about to get a lot weirder. But for now, let the hum of medieval Florence lull you into a gentle half-sleep where the danger is still distant and the worst thing on your mind is a bad case of flea bites. The tavern's wooden shutters creak open at noon, letting in a blade of sunlight that cuts through the dimness like a rusty knife. You squint, suddenly aware of a throbbing in your left armpit. When you press gently, a lump the size of a plum pushes back, bigger than it was this morning. Panic claws at your throat. Boo-boys, just like the history book said. You're already on the clock, 48 hours until, well, let's not dwell on that. Stranger, you look pale as a ghost's undershirt, the tavern keeper says, leaning over the counter. His breath smells of garlic and something fermented. Need a priest? Or a doctor? He spits the word doctor like it's a bad joke. You hesitate. In 2025, doctor means white coats and antibiotics. Here, it means a man in a bird-shaped mask who thinks your blood is too hot. But what choice do you have? You nod, trying not to gag as another wave of fever dizziness hits. 10 minutes later he arrives, the plague doctor. His cloak is black, his boots caked in mud, and his face is hidden behind a long curved beak stuffed with herbs, rosemary, mint, maybe lavender. The theory? The sweet smell keeps out miasma. The bad air, they think, causes the plague. Spoiler, it doesn't. The beak's just a fancy filter for denial. He carries a leather satchel that clinks with metal tools, and you notice his gloves are made of goatskin, stained brown with, is that blood? Ah, the bubonic peril, he says, his voice muffled by the mask. It sounds like he's talking through a tin can. Fear not, for I am Dr. Giovanni, master of humoral balance. Your body harbours excess black bile. We must purge it. He opens his satchel, revealing a set of lancets that look more like torture devices than medical tools. You take a step back, tripping over a stool. Wait, can't we just let it be? Maybe rest? Dr. Giovanni twists, shaking his head. Foolishness. Unbalanced humours are the root of all illness. See this? He holds up a lancet, its edge jagged. Bloodletting will restore harmony. Trust me, I've treated dozens of corpses, you think, but keep your mouth shut. He grabs your arm, surprisingly strong for a man wearing a bird mask, and pushes up your sleeve. Your skin is already dotted with flea bite welts. First, we open the vein, he announces, pressing the lancet to your inner elbow. You tense, expecting pain, but it's more of a blunt scrape. He's not exactly a surgeon. Blood oozes out. Thick, dark, completely normal, but he clicks his tongue. Ah, see? Thick as wine. Too much corruption. He places a clay bowl beneath the wound, watching the blood pool like it's a fascinating art project. You feel lightheaded, not from blood loss yet, but from the absurdity. Here you are, a time traveller with a PhD in I know better, letting a medieval quack drain your life force because, what? Social norms? Fear of being called a heretic? The bowl is halfway full when you say, I think that's enough. Dr. Giovanni shrugs and wraps a dirty rag around your arm. Rest now. Drink comfrey tea. And avoid sinners, they attract the plague. As he leaves, you slump back onto the stool. Your armpit throbs worse than a hangover and the room spins slightly. The tavern keeper slides a cup of wine over. Don't take it personally. He tried to bleed my goat last week. Goat died. Great, you think. At least you're not a goat. You peer out the window, noticing the streets are quieter than this morning. Fewer vendors, more empty carts. A group of men in white robes, flagellants, march past, whipping their backs with leather straps. We repent. We atone, they chant. Blood drips onto the cobblestones. Some bystanders kneel and cross themselves. Others hurry away, clutching amulets made of garlic and blessed coins. Superstition is the currency here. Your stomach growls, but the thought of food makes you queasy. Instead, you focus on the tavern's fireplace where a few embers glow like dying stars. You wonder if modern antibiotics would work on Yersinia pestis. Probably, but you don't have any. Maybe you could fashion a crude mask from linen and herbs. But Dr. Giovanni's bird beak didn't help him. Why would yours? A woman stumbles into the tavern, her face flushed, a bubo the size of an egg protruding from her neck. She gasps for air, clutching the door frame. The tavern keeper freezes, then grabs a broom and waves her away. Out. No sick here, she pleads in a voice like gravel. I just need water. But he hits the floor near her feet, shouting, Go die somewhere else. She staggers back into the street, and you hear her cough echoing down the alley. That could be you in a few hours, you realise. Alone, rejected, left to die in a gutter. Medieval compassion is a rare commodity, like clean water or a good night's sleep. You touch your bubo again, smaller than hers, but growing. Time is ticking. Should you try to find a hiding spot? A cellar maybe, away from crowds and fleas? But how do you ask for that without sounding suspicious? The tavern keeper mutters, Plagues in the walls now. My cousin in Siena says they're burning entire houses. Doors nailed shut, people inside. You shiver, even though the room is stifling. Burning alive versus dying from plague. Some choice. At least in 2025, we have quarantine hotels. Here, it's either run or rot. You stand up, legs wobbly, and step outside. The noon sun is brutal, baking the mud into hard clods. A cart labelled Fedeli della Morte, Friends of Death, rumbles by, pulled by a skinny horse. The driver wears a rag over his face, humming a tune that sounds suspiciously like a funeral march. On the cart, bodies are stacked like firewood, their hands blue, their eyes still open. You look away, but the image sticks in your mind like glue. Down the street, a group of children huddle around a dead rat, poking it with sticks. Make it dance, one boy shouts. They giggle as its fleas scatter. You want to scream, get away from it. but they just think you're mad. Instead, you pick up a rock and throw it near them. "Leave it," you snap. They run off, yelling curses in Italian. Better scared than infected. You lean against a wall, sweating through your linen shirt. The smell of rosemary from Dr. Giovanni's mask lingers on your sleeve, a cruel reminder of false hope. You wonder if anyone in the city will survive. History says Florence loses 60% of its population. That's not a statistic here. It's a death sentence for every 5th person you see. A nun walks by, her habit stained with dirt. She carries a basket of bread, handing it out to the sick. When she offers you a piece, you notice her hands are covered in sores. "Bless you, child," she says, her voice gentle. You take the bread, unsure if it's safer to eat or refuse. She moves on, leaving a trail of benedictions and germs. Your wound from the nail earlier throbs in time with your heartbeat. Great. Sepsis on top of plague. Medieval Florence is really stacking the deck against you. You wonder if you should write a goodbye note, but paper's expensive here, and you don't have a pen. Maybe carve it into a wall? Here lies a time traveller who forgot to pack antibiotics. R.I.P. As the afternoon sun starts to dip toward the horizon, you realise you're wasting time. If you're going to die, at least do something medieval, like visit a church, pray for a miracle, even though you don't believe in them. You make your way to the nearest basilica, stepping over a dog corpse that's already attracting flies. The doors are heavy, carved with scenes of saints and martyrs. Ironic, given what's happening outside. Inside, it's cooler, the air thick with incense and desperation. Candles flicker in front of altars, their flames dancing like nervous ghosts. A few people kneel, weeping, while others lie on the floor, too weak to move. A priest recites Latin prayers, swinging a thurible so hard ashes fall from the incense. You wonder if he knows how useless this is, or if he's just as scared as everyone else. You light a candle, more out of habit than faith. The flame reflects in the gold leaf of a Madonna statue, her painted eyes serene. If only she could prescribe doxycycline, you think. But she's just wooden paint, like the rest of this city's false reassurances. Outside, the first shadows of dusk stretch across the street. You feel a new pain in your groin. Another bubo. So much for the cure. Dr. Giovanni's bloodletting probably just weakened you. Thanks, buddy. You stagger toward the river, hoping the cool air will clear your head. The Arno flows slow and murky, carrying dead fish and God knows what else. Somewhere upstream, a body floats by, face down, bloated like a pig bladder. You sit on a stone pier, listening to the water lap against the wood. In 2025, you'd be scrolling through TikTok right now complaining about traffic. Here, you're counting down the hours until your immune system collapses. Funny how perspective changes. As the sun dips below the horizon, you make a decision. No more doctors, no more prayers. You'll find a quiet spot, maybe a rooftop, and watch the stars come out. If this is your last night, you'll spend it looking at the same sky people in 2025 see. A tiny connection across time. You stand up, legs trembling, and start walking. The streets are darker now, fewer torches lit. People hurry past, clutching crosses and garlic necklaces. Somewhere, a baby cries, its mother shushing it with a tired sigh. The world is ending, but life clings on, messy and stubborn. You reach a narrow alley, walls sticky with God knows what. A cat hisses at you from a pile of garbage. You shoo it away, then freeze. Something moves in the shadows. A rat, big as a small dog, scurries across your path, fleas jumping from its fur like sparks. You jump back, hitting the wall. Too late. Those fleas are already looking for new hosts. So this is it, you think? No heroic last stand, no cure, just a slow march toward a very unglamorous end. But hey, at least you're not alone. The entire continent is dying with you. Misery loves company, even in the 14th century. As we ease into the next chapter, imagine the dusk settling over Florence like a grey blanket, the city holding its breath before the night's horrors begin. You're not sure if you'll see dawn, but for now let the rhythm of the Arno's current lull you into a restless half-sleep, where even in your dreams the bird-beaked doctor's laugh echoes like a distant storm. Dusk paints Florence in hues of bruised purple and sickly yellow, as if the sky itself is vomiting up the day. You lean against a crumbling wall, each breath a struggle. Your chest burns now like someone's lit a small fire in your lungs. The buboes in your armpit and groin throb in sync with your pulse, hot as live coals. You wonder if this is how a rotisserie chicken feels mid-turn, slowly cooking in its own panic. The streets, once buzzing with the chaos of midday, are now eerily empty. like a marketplace abandoned by ghosts. Only the occasional cart rumbles by, its wheels crunching over cobblestones and something softer, squishier. You peer down, bone fragments, teeth, bits of hair. The friends of death have been busy. Trust me, you don't want to know what's in that soup. A group of teenagers, hardly more than kids, stagger past, swigging from a wineskin. Their eyes are glassy, their laughter too loud, too desperate. "Toast to the plague," one shouts, raising the skin. "May it take our bosses first." They vanish into an alley, still cackling. You envy their numbness, even as you know it's just wine and denial talking. You drag yourself toward the city centre, where the Duomo's dome looms like a giant stone mushroom. But even the cathedral's grandeur can't mask the stench, a thick, cloying mix of rotting flesh, burnt hair, and the metallic tang of blood. It clings to your clothes, your throat, your teeth. You try breathing through your mouth, but that just lets the taste in warm, salty, wrong. Ahead, a crowd gathers around a bonfire. At first you think it's a protest, or maybe a weird medieval rave. Then you see the bodies, at least a dozen, stacked like firewood, their skin already turning black. A man with a torch hesitates, then throws it into the pile. Flames erupt, sending up a cloud of greasy smoke. Women sob, men cross themselves. Some just stand there, blank-eyed, as if they've forgotten how to feel. "Why burn them?" you ask a woman clutching a child. She doesn't look at you. Priest says it cleans the air. "But my sister's in there. She was still breathing this morning." "Your stomach lurches." Was she? Or did they just want to be rid of her before she turned? Mercy or murder? In 1347, the line blurs like ink in rain. You stumble away toward the river. The Arno at dusk is a sluggish beast, its surface dotted with floating corpses, some bloated, some picked clean by fish. A man in a rowboat scoops them up with a hook, tossing them onto a barge. "Gotta keep the water moving," he mutters when he sees you staring. "Last week, a nobleman's wife tried to wash her hands in here. Dead in 3 days." You nod, noting the irony. Even death has a supply chain here. Your legs give out, and you sink onto a damp doorstep. Across the street, a family huddles in a doorway, the parents whispering fiercely, the children too weak to cry. The father spots you and snaps. "Got a coin for bread? Or just here to watch us die?" You pat your pockets again, uselessly. "Sorry," you say. He spits. "Sorry" doesn't fill bellies, stranger. You look up at the buildings around you. Most have wooden boards nailed across their doors with crosses or chalked warnings. "Pest as heck, plague here." Some doors have claw marks, as if someone tried to scratch their way out. You shiver, remembering the tavern keeper's story about burning houses. Were they already dead inside, or alive, begging for mercy? History doesn't care about the difference. A bell tolls from a distant tower 9 times. 10. Time loses meaning when you're counting down to oblivion. You stand up, swaying, and decide to climb. If you're going to die, you might as well have a view. The staircase to the rooftop is narrow, stinking of urine and fear. At the top, you push open a creaky door and step into the cool evening air. The roof stretches out before you, a patchwork of terracotta tiles and crumbling chimneys. In the distance, the hills of Tuscany rise like a purple dream, untouched by death. Closer by, a cat naps on a sun-warmed tile, indifferent to the chaos. Lucky bastard. You sit down, leaning against a chimney. The city spreads out below you, a patchwork of shadows and flickering torches. Here and there you see fires, funeral pyres, or homes being purged. The air is thick with ash, like a gentle snowfall of decay. You wonder how many rooftops like this hold dying people, too tired to move, too scared to scream. Somewhere below, a woman sings a lullaby. It's off-key, broken by sobs, but hauntingly beautiful. You close your eyes, letting the sound wash over you. In 2025, lullabies are streamed through Bluetooth speakers, sanitized and safe. Here, they're raw, desperate, a plea to a god who might not be listening. Your fever spikes, and you lie down, staring at the sky. The first stars appear, pinpricks of light in a darkening canvas. You think of your phone, back in 2025, with its stargazing app that tells you the name of every dot in the sky. Here, they're just lights, indifferent to the chaos below. Comforting, in a way. A breeze picks up, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from a nearby garden. For a moment you're back in your own bed, dreaming of Italy's sunny days, gelato, no buboes. Then a cart rattles by below, snapping you back. Reality, medieval Florence, doesn't do gelato, or showers. You touch your buboes again. They're bigger now, almost the size of eggs. 48 hours, the book said. You've got maybe 12 hours left. What do you do with a dozen hours when you're stuck in the past with no way home? You could panic, or you could people watch, medieval style. Across the street, a man climbs onto his own rooftop, carrying a jug of wine and a loaf of bread. He spots you and raises the jug. "Salute," he calls, grinning. You raise an imaginary cup. "To not dying yet?" he laughs, a rough barking sound. "To that." He takes a long swig, then tears off a hunk of bread. "Want some?" "Stale, but better than nothing." You hesitate, then nod. He tosses it over. It lands near your feet, slightly dusty. You eat it anyway. His name is Lorenzo, he tells you. A cloth merchant, or he was before the plague. Now he's just a man with too much wine and too few customers. He talks about his wife, Maria, who died last week. She wanted a big funeral. Got a bonfire instead. His voice is steady, but his hands shake as he pours more wine. Funny, isn't it? We spent years saving for a nice tomb, and now she's ash in the wind. You listen, too tired to speak, as he rambles about cloth dyes and apprentices, and a dog he had as a boy. It's nice, in a morbid way, the last conversation of a dying man shared with a stranger from another century. You wonder if he'll remember you in his final hours, or if you'll just be a blur in the fever dream of his death. The moon rises, a thin crescent like a sliver of bone. Lorenzo falls silent, staring at it. "My grandmother said the moon was a gateway to heaven," he murmurs. "Guess we'll find out soon enough, eh?" You don't answer. What's there to say? Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings midnight. Lorenzo stands up, swaying. "Time to sleep," he says, "or try to. Good luck, stranger. May your God be kinder than mine." He disappears down the stairs, leaving you alone with the stars and the smell of smoke. You close your eyes, feeling the fever pull you under like a gentle current. In the half-dream between wake and sleep, you imagine modern firefighters rushing into the medieval streets, spraying disinfectant, handing out vaccines. But of course, they don't come. This is history, and history doesn't care about your plans. When you open your eyes again, it's nearly dawn. The sky is turning pale, like someone spilled milk in the inkwell. Your buboes hurt less, which is either a good sign or a very bad one. You sit up, wincing at the stiffness in your joints. Lorenzo's rooftop is silent. You wonder if he made it through the night. Below, the city stirs, if you can call it that. A few lights flicker on, more bonfires smoking in the distance. A dog trots by, carrying a human finger in its mouth. You look away, focusing on the horizon. The sun is coming, red and angry, like a fresh wound in the sky. And then, something odd, a flicker of movement in the alley below. A figure dressed in rags, darting from shadow to shadow, carrying a bundle. A thief? A survivor? Wait, they're wearing a leather satchel that looks modern? No, impossible. You blink, but they're gone, swallowed by the dawn's half-light. Must be a fever dream. As we ease into the next chapter, imagine that dawn breaking over Florence, the city sighing awake into another day of horror. You're not sure if you're alive or dead, but for now, the sun is warm on your face, and the cat on the next roof over is still napping. Maybe there's hope yet, or maybe it's just time for some brutally honest survival tips. But that's for later. For now, let the slow, relentless march of the dawn lull you into a restless peace, where even in the face of oblivion, there's a strange, quiet beauty in simply being alive for one more minute. It's midnight in Florence, but the city never truly sleeps. Not when death is a night owl. You're holed up in a drafty attic, the floorboards creaking under a thin layer of hay. Your fever has ebbed slightly, replaced by a shaky clarity, like someone turned down the volume on reality. And that's when you hear it. A voice, not quite yours, not quite mine, whispering survival tips like secrets shared over a campfire. First rule of time travel, always pack a sketchbook. Wait, what? You sit up, coughing into your sleeve. The voice continues, calm and slightly sarcastic, like a history teacher who's seen too many bad time travel movies. Michelangelo's not born yet, sure, but trust me, Florence's 14th century artists are just as messy. Wander past any studio after dark and you'll find crumpled drafts in the trash. A quick sketch of their work could net you a meal, or at least a few raised eyebrows from a confused apprentice. You roll your eyes, but the image sticks. You, crouched behind a Renaissance workshop, fishing charcoal sketches from a pile of shavings. Why? You mutter to the empty attic. Because in 500 years, art historians will kill for those doodles. But here, they're just trash. Modern sketchbooks have smooth paper too, like a luxury item. Trade one for bread, or better yet, a flask of that rot-gut wine they call medicine. Next tip, glass beads. Ah yes, the voice says. The Medici family. They're not kings yet, just ambitious bankers, but they love shiny things. Venetian merchants think glass beads are exotic, so trade yours for gossip. Accidentally drop a bead while asking, "How's business in the spice trade?" They'll spill secrets like a broken wine barrel. Just don't mention the word bankruptcy. They're touchy about that. You snort. Great, so I'm a medieval spy with a bead collection. What's next? Using my phone as a mirror. The voice clucks its tongue. Phone's useless here, genius. But hey, at least you're not in London. Ever wonder why the Thames smells like a wet dog's grave? Spoiler, it's not just the dogs. In 1347, that river is an open sewer. Drink the well water near it, and you might as well drink rat pee. Save yourself. Stick to ale. Even the monks do it. Speaking of London, nighttime there is like a bad horror movie, but with more fog and fewer jump scares. Robbers love the mist perfect for mugging unsuspecting time travellers. Solution? Sulphur torches. Light one, and the smell alone will make thieves think twice. Plus, sulphur's magical, in medieval logic. Ward off demons, plague, and that guy who keeps trying to sell you cursed relics. Triple threat. You lean back, staring at the rafters. The voice isn't stopping. Oh, and about those plague doctors? Their herbal masks are about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. If you see one coming, run. Fast. Bloodletting's just a fancy way to bleed out. Your body's already fighting enough without them playing vampire. Wait, you say aloud, what about vaccines? Antibiotics? Can't I invent penicillin? The voice laughs. Sure, if you can find mould, isolate penicillin, and convince a medieval alchemist it's not witchcraft. Spoiler, you can't. Stick to basics. Avoid rats, burn rosemary, and pray the fleas are picky eaters. The attic door creaks open below, and you freeze. Footsteps climb the stairs, slow, deliberate. Your heart pounds. Is it a thief? A plague cart driver? You grab a nearby broomstick, ready to swing. The door swings open, and oh, it's just a stray cat chasing a moth. You deflate, dropping the broom. Thanks for the panic attack, universe. The voice continues, undeterred. Let's talk about hygiene. Medieval people think bathing is sinfuls, or for nobles. Newsflash, it's not. Wash your hands with vinegar if you can find it. Avoid crowds. And for the love of all things modern, do not touch your face. Every time you scratch your nose, you're basically inviting plague bacteria to a party. You glance at your hands, grimy from days in the streets. Vinegar. Where would you even get that? Maybe a tavern. Trade a glass bead for a jug, the voice suggests. Or pretend you're a fancy perfumer. This vinegar's infused with lavender for aromatherapy. They'll nod and pretend they know what that means. Now, about the Medici, the voice starts, but you cut it off. Wait, the Medici in 3047? They're just rich people, right? Not the powerhouses yet. The voice sighs. Yes, but foresight is your superpower here. Be nice to that young Giovanni di Bicci de' Medici. Buy him a drink. Someday his grandson will rule Florence, and you'll want him on your side. Plus, he owes his accountant a favour. Long story. You shake your head, half convinced you're hallucinating from fever. This is ridiculous. I'm taking survival advice from a voice in my head in a plague-ridden attic. The voice chuckles. Hey, when in 3047, do as the time travellers do. Also, pro tip, if you see a guy named Boccaccio writing stories in a corner, leave him alone. He's drafting the Decameron, and he's on a deadline. Disturb him, and he might kill you in a story. Not worth it. The cat jumps onto your lap, purring loudly. You scratch its ears, surprised by how comforting its warmth is. At least someone's not trying to kill me, you murmur. The voice softens. Animals are good. They don't care about plagues or politics, just food and naps. Take notes. Midnight stretches on, the city outside a patchwork of firelight and shadow. You imagine packing a time travel survival kit, sketchbook, glass beads, sulphur matches, a flask of vinegar. Too bad you didn't bring any, the voice says. But hey, improvisation is the mother of invention. Use that 21st century brain, convince a blacksmith you're a prophet who sees future metals. Or just lie. Medieval people love a good lie. You yawn, fatigue washing over you. The cat curls into a ball, and the voice fades into the background, like a podcast playing softly while you drift off. One last tip, it whispers. Survival isn't just about avoiding death. It's about finding tiny joys, the taste of fresh bread, a cat's purr, a starry sky. Hold on to those. They'll keep you human, even when the world isn't. As you close your eyes, the attic feels less like a death trap and more like a strange, temporary home. The cat's heartbeat thrums under your hand, steady as a metronome. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls 1 o'clock. You're still alive, for now, and in a world where survival is a miracle, that's enough. The voice, your voice, really, chuckles one last time. Good night, time traveller. May your dreams be free of buboes and bird-beaked doctors. And if you wake up in London tomorrow, bring a torch. And maybe a really big bead. Dawn spills over Florence like a spilled jar of honey, golden and slow, but you're not there to see it. Instead, you're floating in a sea of softness cotton sheets, the distant hum of a refrigerator, the faint smell of coffee from a neighbouring apartment. Wait, coffee? In 1347, coffee was still a mystery in distant Arabia. You open your eyes, blinking at the ceiling of your modern bedroom. The buboes are gone, the smell of death replaced by the fresh scent of laundry detergent. You're home. The cat from the attic, your real cat, Mr. Whiskers, jumps onto the bed, meowing insistently. You laugh, shaky with relief, and scratch behind his ears. No fleas here, buddy, you murmur. He purrs, oblivious to the medieval nightmare you just escaped. The alarm clock reads 7:30 a.m. Another day in 2025, blessedly free of bloodletting doctors and burning pyres. You sit up, stretching, and notice a sketchbook on your nightstand. For a wild second, you wonder if there are hidden medieval drawings inside. But no, it's full of your own messy notes, not masterpieces. Still, you smile, remembering the survival tip. Maybe you'll start carrying it again, just in case. Well, just in case. The smell of coffee grows stronger. You stumble to the kitchen, pressing the button on your coffee maker like it's a sacred ritual. In medieval Florence, this would be magic. Here, it's Tuesday. You pour a cup, savouring the warmth, the bitterness, the sheer normality of it. No fear of plague in this steam, just the promise of a quiet morning. As you sip, you think of Lorenzo, the cloth merchant from the rooftop. Did he survive? History says most didn't, but in your mind he's still out there, somewhere in the past, sharing wine with strangers and staring at the stars. It's a silly thought, but it feels right. In the end, we're all just strangers sharing stories across time. Mr. Whiskers winds around your legs demanding breakfast. You oblige, opening a can of tuna luxury in any century. As he eats, you stare out the window at the city below. Cars honking, people scrolling on phones, a barista arguing with a customer about almond milk. Mundane, wonderful, alive. You check your phone, no new messages, just the usual spam. In 1347, this would be a miracle of communication. Here, it's just noise. But today, you appreciate it. The connection, the chaos, the proof that life went on, that the plague ended, that humanity survived, messy and stubborn as ever. The clock ticks closer to 8:30 a.m. You should get ready for work, but instead you climb back into bed, pulling the covers over your head. Just 5 more minutes, you tell yourself. 5 minutes to linger in the warmth, the safety, the knowledge that you're not alone, that the past is just a story and the present is a gift. Outside, a bird sings. Inside, Mr. Whiskers curls up on your chest. You close your eyes, listening to the rhythm of your own breath, steady and sure. The medieval world fades like a dream, replaced by the gentle hum of modern life. No buboes, no fear, just the quiet certainty that today you'll survive. And that's the thing about history, isn't it? The horrors feel so real when you're in them, but from the other side, they're just stories. Lessons wrapped in fear, reminders to cherish the little things. The coffee, the cat, the clean sheets. The knowledge that even in the darkest times, light finds a way in. So here's your gentle reminder. As you drift back towards sleep, life is fragile, but so are we, and that's okay. We're all just time travellers in our own way, moving through days and nights, hoping for dawn. And when the world feels heavy, remember the stars over Florence, the same stars that light up your sky tonight. Mr. Whiskers purrs, slow, matching your heartbeat. The room grows softer, the edges blurring into dreamland. You're not sure if you're awake or asleep, but it doesn't matter. In this moment, you're safe, you're warm, and the past is just a lullaby carrying you gently into rest. Good night, time traveller. May your dreams be kind, and when you wake, may the coffee be hot, the cats be cuddly, and the world feel a little more magical, just like it did for that stranger on a medieval rooftop, staring at the same stars as you. The room is almost dark now, save for the soft glow of a bedside lamp that pools like warm honey on the carpet. Mr. Whiskers has drifted off, his tiny snores a gentle rhythm against your ribs. You feel the weight of the day, Both the imagined medieval one and your real modern hours slip away like sand through a broken hourglass. Outside, the city hums and whispers. A distant car, a closing door, the rustle of leaves in a breeze. Inside, your breath slows, each inhale pulling in the scent of lavender from your pillow, each exhale releasing the last traces of tension. You're not thinking about plague doctors or buboes anymore. Instead, your mind floats to simpler things. The way sunlight filters through your curtains in the morning, the first sip of cold water when you're thirsty, the sound of a friend's laugh. This is the magic of stories, isn't it? They take us to strange, scary places, but they always bring us back home. Back to the warmth of our own beds, the familiarity of our own lives, the quiet realization that even the darkest chapters in history end, and so do ours. You wiggle your toes under the covers, feeling the softness of the blanket, the solidness of the mattress. Safe, held, alive in a world that's messy and beautiful and wonderfully, boringly real. The lamp clicks off, and suddenly you're wrapped in darkness, but it's a kind darkness, like a hug from an old friend. As sleep pulls you under, you imagine the stars again. Those same stars that watched over Florence in 1347 that now twinkle above your city. They're a bridge between then and now, a reminder that time is a river, and we're all just floating on it, one moment to the next. So rest now, deeply and peacefully. Let the stories of the past fade into the quiet of the night, and let the calm of the present carry you into dreamland. Tomorrow will bring new light, new moments, new chances to cherish the ordinary magic of being alive. Good night, my friend. Sleep well, and know that in this vast, chaotic world, there's a little corner of peace just for you, soft, safe, and full of gentle dreams. Hey guys, tonight we're dropping you into 1770 Paris, right into the heart of a noble salon. But fair warning, if you're planning to blend in with the powdered crowd, you might not make it to sunrise. So before you settle in, if this little bedtime ritual speaks to you, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. Now, if you'd like, lower the lights just enough to let stories breathe. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. The carriage jolts to a stop on Rue du Faubourg, Saint-Honoré. You push open the door, stepping into a puddle of something sticky. Probably last night's chamber pot runoff. Welcome to 18th century Paris. The air smells like a mix of horse manure, lavender sachets, and something sweetly rotten. That's the scent of money here, perfume masking poor hygiene. A footman in silk stockings ushers you up marble steps. The salon doors swing open and light floods out, candles, hundreds of them, reflecting off gold leaf and crystal chandeliers. But what hits you first isn't the opulence, it's the face of the hostess. Her skin is as white as a sheet of paper, so pale it's almost blue. Her lips are a slash of crimson, her eyebrows painted on with charcoal, and when she smiles, wait, is that a gap where a tooth should be? Ah, cher ami, she trills, extending a gloved hand. Her voice is high-pitched, like a bird's tweet. You notice her gloves are embroidered with silver thread, but the cuffs are stained yellow, probably from the arsenic-based green dye. That's all the rage. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, the face powder. A maid approaches with a mother-of-pearl box. Inside, a pile of fine white powder. Pour votre beauté, she says, offering a velvet puff. You hesitate. The powder looks innocent enough, like ground sugar, but remember that cold data, 5,000 EPM lead in Madame de Barry's vanity. That's like rubbing battery acid on your face, but slower. You dip the puff into the powder. It feels silky, almost soothing. You start dabbing it on your cheeks. The texture is light, like a cloud. But as you apply it, you notice a faint metallic taste in your mouth. That's the lead seeping through your pores, into your bloodstream. Congratulations, you've just started the slowest suicide in history. The room is filling up with guests. Everyone is wearing the same look, ghostly white face, red lips, black beauty patches. Some of the women have their hair piled so high they need footmen to help them fit through doorways. You spot a countess adjusting her wig. It's decorated with tiny ships and flowers, held in place with lard. Yes, lard. Hair pomade back then was basically animal fat mixed with perfume. Someone hands you a glass of wine. You take a sip, but the taste is off metallic, like the powder. Maybe it's just your imagination. You look around, trying to enjoy the music. A trio is playing a minuet, but the violinist's fingers are trembling. Is he nervous, or is that lead poisoning too? The hostess claps her hands. Le jour commence. she cries. Cards are brought out, along with bowls of macaroons. You sit down at a table, careful not to smudge your fresh face powder. The woman across from you is wearing a necklace of human hair. Apparently, it's a tribute to her late husband. She deals the cards, and you notice her nails are chipped in yellow, another warning sign, but you're too busy trying to remember the rules of piquet. As the night wears on, your face starts to itch. You resist the urge to scratch. You don't want to ruin your makeup. But the itch gets worse, like tiny ants crawling under your skin. You excuse yourself to the withdrawing room, a small chamber where ladies can freshen up. In front of a mirror, you see the damage. The powder has caked in the lines of your face, making you look decades older. There are small flakes falling onto your décolletage. You try to brush them off, but more appear. Is this just the powder settling, or is your skin already starting to decay? You splash some water on your face from a silver basin. The water is cold, but it doesn't help the itch. You notice the basin has a faint grey residue around the rim, probably from all the lead powder being washed off here. Great, even the water in this place is trying to kill you. Back in the salon, the atmosphere is getting rowdier. People are laughing too loudly, talking over each other. A young duke spills wine on his waistcoat, but he doesn't seem to care. His eyes are glassy, his speech slurred. Is he drunk, or is his brain being pickled by lead? You feel a headache coming on, a dull throb behind your eyes. Maybe it's the candles, or the wine, or the fact that you're inhaling lead fumes. You decide it's time to leave. You make your way through the crowd, careful not to bump into anyone. The hostess stops you at the door. Leaving so soon? She pouts, her painted lips forming a perfect O. But the best part is yet to come. She motions to the dining room, where a table is set with more food than you've ever seen. Roast peacocks, pies filled with live birds, jellies moulded into the shapes of castles. But you're too nauseous to eat. As you step back into the carriage, you feel a wave of relief. The fresh air, if you can call it that, feels good on your face. But as the carriage rumbles away, you can't help but wonder, how many more nights like this can you survive? And more importantly, is that face powder really worth it? The carriage rattles through the pitch-black streets, and you lean your head against the cold window. The metallic taste in your mouth has thickened, like sucking on a penny that's been left in rain. Your skin still itches under the layers of lead powder, but now there's a new sensation, tightness, as if your face is being pulled by invisible strings. You close your eyes, promising yourself a long soak in the morning. But in 1770 Paris, morning brings more than just sunlight. When you wake, the first thing you notice is the pillowcase. It's dotted with tiny white flakes, last night's face powder, now mixed with, is that skin? You sit up, wincing at the stiffness in your neck. The mirror across the room shows a figure wrapped in a silk dressing gown, but the face above it looks like something out of a nightmare. The lead white powder has caked into every crease, turning your smile lines into deep cracks. Where the powder has rubbed off around your nose, under your eyes, the skin is red and inflamed, like a bad sunburn. You reach up to touch your cheek, and a flake of skin comes off on your finger. It's as thin as parchment, almost translucent. That's not just dead skin. Lead disrupts cell turnover, making your epidermis peel like an onion. You ring for the maid, who enters with a copper basin of water. She doesn't bat an eye at your peeling face. This is normal here. Madame de Barry used rose water mixed with vinegar, she says matter-of-factly, pouring the water. Says it keeps the powder from settling. Vinegar? That might actually help. Acetic acid can bind to lead, but good luck convincing a noblewoman to rub salad dressing on her face. As you splash the water on your face, the stinging makes you gasp. The inflamed skin feels raw, like you've scrubbed it with sandpaper. You notice the water turning a faint greyish hue bits of lead powder and dead skin floating like ash. The maid hands you a linen towel, and when you dry your face, more flakes come off. Your complexion is now a patchwork of white powder, red sores, and exposed pink skin. Time to reapply the face powder. The maid opens the same mother-of-pearl box, and you notice a dark residue at the bottom. Is that mould or just more lead? You bite your lip, remembering the survival tip, bring vinegar. If only you'd smuggled a vial from the future. Instead, you dip the puff into the powder, trying to ignore the metallic smell that's stronger now, almost like rotten eggs. The powder doesn't go on smoothly. It clings to the inflamed patches, making them look even more irritated. You try to blend it in, but every stroke of the puff feels like sandpaper on an open wound. The maid offers a pot of rouge, made with mercury by the way, to add colour to your cheeks. You decline, fearing double poisoning. Downstairs, breakfast is a spread of bread, cheese and chocolate. You reach for a croissant, but when you bite into it, your teeth ache. Not just a dull, throb-sharp, shooting pains that make you wince. You touch your front tooth and it feels loose. Wait, that can't be, you're in your 20s. But lead attacks the gums, dissolving the bone that holds teeth in place. Madame du Barry lost all hers by 25. You push the food away, opting for chocolate instead. The warm drink helps soothe your aching mouth, but the metallic taste is back, stronger than ever. It's in the chocolate, in the air, even in the linen napkin you're holding. Lead is everywhere here, a silent assassin hiding in plain sight. As you sip the chocolate, you notice your hands. The nails, once smooth and strong, are now brittle and chipped. There's a faint blue line along the base of your fingernails, a classic sign of lead poisoning. The maid says it's just ink from writing, but you know better. That line is your body's way of saying, "Help, I'm being poisoned." The post arrives, carried by a footman in livery. You unfold a letter from a friend, inviting you to a garden party that afternoon. "Wear your finest powder," she writes. "The Duchess of X will be there, and she's just got a new batch from Venice. Great Venetian powder, probably even higher in lead." You wonder if declining will raise suspicion, but then you remember, everyone here is slowly dying from the same thing. Maybe they won't notice one more pale face. You decide to stay in, pleading a headache. The truth is, you're scared. Scared of what another day of face powder will do to your skin, your teeth, your body. You pace the room, feeling restless. The windows are shuttered to keep out the sun. Sunlight is bad for pale skin, don't you know? So the room is dim, lit only by a single candle. As you pass the mirror, you do a double take. Is that a hair? On your shoulder, you brush it off. But when you look at your hand, there are several more. Your hair is falling out. Lead disrupts the protein structure of hair follicles, making strands snap at the root. You rush to a vanity, pulling at your locks, come out in your fingers. This isn't just vanity anymore, this is survival. You remember another survival tip: avoid the Duchess of Barry's vanity. But here you are, using the same damn powder. You throw the mother-of-pearl box across the room where it shatters against the wall. Powder explodes everywhere, coating the floor in a fine white dust. For a moment, you feel like a child throwing a tantrum, but then you realize this powder is killing you. Maybe throwing it away is the first step to survival. The maid rushes in, gasping at the mess. "Mademoiselle, that's the new powder from. I don't care where it's from, you snap. Get it out of here. And bring me vinegar. Lots of it." The maid looks confused, but she scurries off. You sink into a chair, staring at your reflection in the broken mirror. Half your face is peeling, your hair is thinning, and your teeth ache. Is this what beauty costs in 1770? The afternoon sun filters through the shutters, casting striped shadows on the lead powder dusting the floor. You're still staring at your reflection now, with a vinegar-soaked cloth pressed to your cheek. The acetic acid stings, but it's better than the relentless itch. Downstairs, the clatter of teacups drifts up. Your landlady is hosting her daily salon, and you can hear the high-pitched laughter of noblewomen through the floorboards. You tiptoe to the staircase, careful not to creak the boards. Peeking over the banister, you see a room full of powdered faces. They're perched on gilded chairs, their silk gowns rustling like dry leaves. A footman circles with a silver tray, and each time he offers a teacup, you notice the ladies hesitate before sipping. Their painted lips curl in a grimace, as if the tea tastes foul. "Did you hear about Madame Diar?" a countess whispers, her beauty patch quivering. "She collapsed at the opera last night. Doctors say it's melancholia, but I saw her maid dumping a basin of blood-tinged spit." Blood-tinged spit? That's lead poisoning attacking the digestive tract. The liver, already overworked from processing lead, starts to fail, turning the organ a sickly grey, just like what medical journals recorded. A maid presents a platter of macaroons. You watch as a young debutante takes one, her gloved fingers trembling. When she bites into it, a drop of red stains the white frosting. She's bleeding from the gums. No one comments. They just avert their eyes and sip their tea faster. This is the norm here. Beauty requires bleeding, quite literally. The landlady notices you lurking and waves you down. "Come join us, Sherry. We were just discussing the new powder from Venice." You freeze, but she pats the empty chair beside her. "Don't worry about your face, we've all had breakouts." She turns, and you see a scab beneath her ear, partially hidden by her wig. So even the hostess isn't immune. As you sit, a duchess across the table pushes her teacup away. "I swear, this tea tastes like metal," she complains, rubbing her temples. "My head is pounded for weeks." Her maid discreetly places a sachet of lavender under her nose. But you know lavender can't mask lead's metallic tang. It's in the tea, the sugar, even the cream, all prepared with water from the Seine, which flows past tanneries and lead smelters. The conversation turns to fashion. Have you seen the new lead combs? A viscountess trills, pulling a silver comb from her wig. They keep the hair in place perfectly. You cringe combing lead through your hair just adds another route for poisoning. No wonder so many ladies here have hair as thin as spider webs. A footman brings a fresh pot of tea, and as he pours, you notice his hands shaking. He's young, maybe 16, with dark circles under his eyes. The landlady scolds him for spilling. But you see the truth. He's been handling lead powder all morning, sweeping up the stuff that falls from ladies' faces. In a few years, he'll probably have the same blue lines on his gums as you. The Duchess beside you starts coughing dry, hacking coughs that make her whole body shake. She pulls out a lace handkerchief, and when she lowers it, there's a faint pink smear. Just a tickle, she says, stuffing the handkerchief into her sleeve. But you know better. Lead weakens the immune system, making even minor infections dangerous. That tickle might be the start of something worse. The tea party drags on, each minute feeling like an hour. The ladies chatter about who's wearing the latest poisoner, powder, and how to hide the sores that appear overnight. One mentions using arsenic-based green paint to line her eyes, and you have to stop yourself from gasping. Arsenic on top of lead? These women are playing a deadly game of chemical roulette. You excuse yourself to fetch a handkerchief, but really, you need air. The salon is stuffy with perfume, candle smoke, and the faint odour of decay. In the hallway, you lean against the wall, trying to steady your breathing. Your head is pounding worse than this morning, and your stomach is churning. Is this the lead affecting your nervous system, or just the horror of what you've witnessed? Through an open door, you see the landlady's private parlour. On the mantelpiece sits a silver frame. Inside is a portrait of a young girl, maybe 10 years old, with a gap-toothed smile. You wonder if she wore powder too, if her childhood was cut short by the same poison. Historians argue about whether children were forced into this beauty ritual, but looking at that portrait, you wouldn't be surprised. Back in the salon, the ladies are preparing to leave. They adjust their wigs, dab on extra powder, and check for stray hairs. As each one passes you, you catch a whiff of something underneath their perfume sour, like rotten eggs. That's hydrogen sulfide, a byproduct of lead-damaged livers. It's the smell of slow death, masked by lavender and rose water. The last guest departs, and the landlady collapses into a chair, fanning herself. Such a tiresome afternoon, she sighs, removing her wig. Her own hair is thin and brittle, plastered to her scalp with pomade. Sometimes I wish we could just be natural. She runs a hand over her peeling cheek, then catches herself, blushing. But of course, that's unthinkable. You help her remove her jewellery, noticing the blue line along her gum line. She sees you looking and forces a smile. Just a trick of the light, she says, but her voice is weak. You want to tell her about the vinegar, about the lead in her powder, but you know it's hopeless. In 1770, Paris, beauty is a death sentence, and everyone here is already sentenced. The afternoon drags on like molasses. Each tick of the mantel clock a reminder that you're slowly being pickled in lead. You retreat to your room hoping a nap will ease the pounding in your temples. But as you lie down, the itch returns, worse than before, as if tiny needles are pricking your skin. You throw back the covers, cursing the day you ever set foot in this powder-drenched city. In the mirror, your face is a disaster. The vinegar helped yesterday, but today the sores have multiplied, oozing a clear liquid that dries into crusts. Where the lead powder hasn't caked, your skin is a mottled mix of red and grey, exactly like the liver of those cosmetic disease victims in the medical journals. You touch a sore near your jaw, and it sends a jolt of pain through your head. That's not just skin irritation. Lead affects the nerves too, turning minor aches into migraines. A knock at the door makes you jump. It's the maid, holding a package wrapped in silk. From the Duchess of Barry's maid, she says, dropping it on the table. Said it's a gift for trying her new powder. You eye the package warily. Madame du Barry's vanity set has 500 PM lead, remember? But curiosity gets the better of you, and you undo the ribbon. Inside is a small ivory box, inlaid with mother of pearl. You open it to find a solid white paste, smelling faintly of roses and something else. Metallic. The maid pipes up. It's the new recipe lead mixed with honey and egg whites, supposed to make the skin glow. Honey and egg whites? That might mask the taste, but it won't stop the lead from seeping in. You close the box quickly, as if it's a venomous snake. Time to try another survival tip. Avoid contaminated food. But in 1770 Paris, everything is contaminated. The bread is baked with flour milled between lead grindstones. The wine is aged in lead-lined barrels. Hell, even the sugar cubes are shaped in lead moulds. You saw a footman today licking sugar off his fingers, not knowing each grain was laced with poison. Your stomach growls, but the thought of eating makes you queasy. Instead, you pour a glass of water from the ewer, only to notice a grey film floating on top. The landlady said it's mineral deposits, but you know it's lead leaching from the pewter pitcher. You dump the water out the window, watching it splatter onto the cobblestones below. Even hydration is a death sentence here. As the afternoon sun turns golden, you hear carriage wheels in the street. Peeking through the shutters, you see a gilded coach emblazoned with a coat of arms. The door opens, and a woman steps out, her face so white it's almost luminous, her wig piled with real diamonds. It's the Duchess of X, here for the garden party your friend mentioned. But as she tilts her head to greet someone, you see her neck twitch involuntarily. That's lead affecting the nervous system, causing muscle spasms. The Duchess is led into the garden, where a table is set with fruits and pastries. You watch from your window as she picks up a strawberry, dips it in sugar, and pops it in her mouth. Her maid stands by with a silver basin, ready to catch any spit. A few minutes later, the Duchess excuses herself, rushing back to the coach. You don't need to guess why. Lead poisoning causes violent vomiting, along with abdominal cramps that feel like someone's twisting your insides. Back in your room, you decide to experiment. You take a pinch of the new lead paste from Madame du Barry's box and drop it into a cup of vinegar. The mixture fizzes slightly, turning a muddy brown. So vinegar does react with lead. Maybe if you dilute it and use it as a toner, it can block some absorption. You dash to the washstand, mixing vinegar and water in a bowl. The solution stings when you apply it, but it's better than doing nothing. The garden party is in full swing below, but you can't bear to join. Instead, you listen to the laughter and music, wondering how many of those happy voices belong to women whose livers are already turning grey. A historian once said that 60% of court women died from cosmetic disease, but standing here, breathing in lead dust, it feels like 100%. You notice your hands are shaking again, worse than this morning. You try to steady them by gripping the windowsill, but the tremors won't stop. That's lead-induced neuropathy, damaging the nerves that control muscle movement. In severe cases, it can cause wrist drop, where you can't lift your hands at all. You wonder if Madame du Barry ever had this problem. Probably right before her teeth fell out. A sudden wave of fatigue hits you, so strong it's like being punched in the gut. You crawl into bed, too exhausted to even remove your stockings. The room spins slightly, and you close your eyes, hoping sleep will bring relief. But as you drift off, you hear the Duchess's coach departing, the wheels rattling over the cobblestones like a death knell. When you wake, it's almost dusk. The room is dim, and your mouth feels like it's full of cotton. You stumble to the mirror, dreading what you'll see. Your face is worse, swollen, with new sores with yellow pus. Your hair has fallen out in clumps, leaving bald patches above your ears. You look like a ghost, a walking corpse wearing a mask of lead. Downstairs, the landlady is locking up. The Duchess took ill, she says when she sees you, had to leave early. You nod, too tired to speak. She hands you a bowl of soup, but the smell makes you gag. Eat something, she insists. You look like you've seen a ghost. If only she knew. As you climb the stairs, your legs feel like they're made of lead. Ironic, isn't it? You collapse onto the bed, too weak to even blow out the candle. The flame flickers, casting shadows on the walls, and for a moment you swear you see faces in the smoke, all of them with white powder, red lips, and empty eye sockets. This is what happens when beauty becomes a poison. You don't just die, you rot from the inside out, long before the final breath. Dusk drapes the city in indigo, and candlelight flickers to life across the salon district. You're too weak to light your own candles, so the room swims in shadows. The only illumination comes from the street lamps below, casting eerie patterns on your peeling face. You can hear the clatter of carriages heading to evening soirees, each one carrying more women to their lead-induced doom. A maid enters with a taper, lighting the candelabra. Her eyes widen at your appearance. Your skin now oozes a thick yellowish fluid, and your hair has matted into clumps. "Mademoiselle, you must see a doctor," she whispers, but you shake your head. Doctors here think lead poisoning is melancholia or bad humours. They'll bleed you, blister you, maybe even dose you with more lead. No thanks. Your teeth begin to chatter, not from cold, but from a deep, bone-deep tremor. You press a hand to your jaw, feeling the looseness in your molars. It's happening, just like Madame du Barry. Your teeth are preparing to fall out. You run your tongue along your gums, tasting blood and that familiar metallic tang. The blue line along your gum line has darkened, almost black now. Downstairs, the landlady calls up. You're expected at the card party, Sherry. The Comte de Provence himself is here. You want to shout that you're dying, but instead, you croak, I'll be down shortly. You force yourself out of bed, grabbing the nearest gown. It hangs loosely on your frame. You've lost so much weight from nausea and leads attack on your digestive system. In the mirror, you try to apply fresh powder, but the puff comes away stained with pus and blood. The lead paste from Madame du Barry's box lies untouched. Even vanity can't overcome the terror now. You dab on a bit of rouge with trembling fingers, but it only makes your sunken cheeks look more cadaverous. This is your final act as a powdered aristocrat, a walking advertisement for beauty's deadliest folly. The card room is ablaze with candles, the air thick with tobacco smoke and expensive perfume. The Comte de Provence is indeed here, his wig styled to resemble a ship at full sail. He waves you over, patting the seat beside him. Ah, the mysterious beauty. I've heard your powder is the whitest in Paris. You force a smile, feeling a tooth shift in its socket. A footman offers a tray of champagne. You take a glass, but the bubbles sting your inflamed gums. As you sit, you notice the Comte's valet standing behind him, holding a silver spittoon. Every few minutes the Comte turns his head and spits pink-tinged saliva that matches your own. So even nobility aren't immune, they just have fancier spit buckets. The cards are dealt, piquet, the same game from your first night. Your hand shakes so badly you can barely hold the cards. The woman across from you, who wore the human hair necklace last night, now has a bandage over her eye. A minor accident with the coal, she says breezily, but you know better. Arsenic-based coal causes corneal damage, sometimes blindness. She's lucky it's just an eye patch. Halfway through the first hand, a sharp pain seizes your abdomen. It's like someone's driving a knife into your gut, twisting it slowly. You double over, gasping for air. The table goes silent, all powdered faces turning to you. Too much champagne, the Comte chuckles, but his laugh sounds forced. You know he's seen this before, another woman crumbling from lead's invisible grasp. You stumble to your feet, mumbling an excuse. The pain is so intense you can barely walk. As you leave the room, you hear the landlady whisper, "It's the cosmetic disease, mark my words." No one argues, they just return to their cards, shuffling lead dust from their fingers onto the ivory backs. This is how they cope, by pretending it's not happening, even as their bodies rot. In the hallway, you collapse against the wall. The pain in your abdomen has become a constant, searing ache. You remember reading that lead causes leg colic, muscle spasms so severe they can mimic appendicitis. If you were in the future, you could get chelation therapy, but here, you're on your own. The maid finds you and helps you upstairs. "I've sent for a doctor," she says, but you wave her off. Instead, you ask for more vinegar. She brings a bowl and you soak a cloth, pressing it to your abdomen. The vinegar doesn't ease the pain, but the coolness is a welcome distraction from the fire inside. Through the open window, you hear laughter from the card group. They're playing for diamonds, for estates, for titles, all while their livers turn grey and their teeth fall out. You wonder if any of them will connect the dots. The white powder, the rotting teeth, the mysterious deaths. Historians say some did, but the allure of beauty was too strong. Your vision starts to blur, and the room spins. You feel yourself slipping away, like sinking into a warm bath. The pain in your abdomen fades, replaced by a strange numbness. Your last coherent thought is of Madame du Barry, dying at 40 with a liver the colour of lead. Did she feel this peace before the end, or was it all terror? The maid returns with the doctor, but it's too late. You're lying still, your face turned to the window. The last of the day's light catches your cheek, highlighting the lead powder still caked in your skin. The doctor checks your pulse, then shakes his head. "Melancholia," he mutters, closing your eyelids. But as he does, a flake of lead-white powder falls from your face, landing on the sheet like a tiny, deadly snowflake. This is how it ends in 1770 Paris, not with a bang, but with a whisper of poisoned powder and a liver turned to lead. Now, before the story fades into total darkness, let's rewind, because you, clever time traveller, don't have to meet the same fate. Picture this. You're packing a satchel before stepping into that 1770 carriage. What goes in? Not lace or pearls. Grab a vial of vinegar first. Douse your skin with it like it's perfume. Acetic acid might just bind to some of that lead before it seeps in. Next, skip the mother-of-pearl powder box. Instead, smuggle a tin of rice flour. Japanese geishas used it for centuries, and it's lead-free. Rub it on with a soft brush, and you'll still look pale enough to fit in, minus the slow poisoning. Bonus, rice flour doesn't cake like lead paste, so your skin can actually breathe. When offered a cup of tea, take a sip, but keep an eye on the saucer. If it leaves a grey ring, put that cup down. Insist on water boiled twice. Yes, double boiling reduces lead content in 18th century pipes. And for God's sake, avoid anything sweetened with lead moulded sugar cubes. Break off a piece of honeycomb instead. At least bees don't work with heavy metals. Now, the ultimate survival hack. Avoid Madame du Barry's orbit like the plague. Her vanity set isn't just high in lead. It's a petri dish of royal recklessness. If you must attend a salon she's at, stand upwind. Lead dust floats, and breathing it in is just as bad as wearing it. Pretend to sneeze and move to the far end of the room. Your lungs will thank you. Got a headache? Skip the doctor's leeches and brew a poultice of chamomile and burdock root. Herbalists of the time didn't know it, but burdock actually helps the body flush toxins. Wrap it in a linen cloth and press it to your temples. Way better than being bled until you pass out. Last but not least, trust your nose. If a powder smells even slightly metallic, run. Same with cosmetics that claim to brighten too quickly. Mercury and lead were the 18th century's version of Photoshop, and just as deadly. Stick to natural dyes, beetroot for lips, crushed berries for cheeks. They fade faster, but hey, you'll live to reapply. Imagine doing all that, sipping double-boiled water, dabbing rice flour, avoiding du Barry's powder like it's radioactive. You might just make it through the night, maybe even a week. And as you watch other ladies scratch at their lead sores, you'll have a secret smile. You're the only one in the room who knows beauty doesn't have to mean dying young. Historians still argue about when the first person connected lead powder to sickness. Some say a brave doctor wrote about it in 1786. Others claim a maid noticed her mistress's teeth falling out after years of powder use. But you, armed with future knowledge, can be the one to break the cycle. Maybe slip a note under someone's napkin, the white powder kills. Maybe they'll laugh, maybe they'll burn it, but maybe, just maybe, one person will think twice before dipping that puff. As the carriage pulls away from the salon, you'll look back at the candlelit windows, knowing what's inside. Beauty as a weapon, vanity as a vice, and lead as the silent assassin. But you'll have survived, your skin intact, your teeth in place, and a story to tell. Because in 1770 Paris, living through the night isn't just about avoiding poison, it's about choosing sanity over style, life over lace. So next time you see a portrait of a powdered noblewoman, remember, behind that perfect white face, there might have been a trembling hand, a rotting liver, and a secret wish to just be natural. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real lullaby here, that beauty fades, but survival. Survival is timeless. Now, as the story fades like candlelight in the dawn, imagine yourself drifting further from 1770 Paris. The lead powder dissolves from your skin, the metallic taste fades from your mouth, and those trembling hands grow steady again. You're lying in a soft bed, far from gilded cages and poisoned vanities. The room is quiet now, save for the gentle rhythm of your breathing. The images of powdered faces and rotting livers blur into a dream, then into nothingness. You might even smile, knowing that in this world, beauty doesn't require suffering, and bedtime stories don't have to end in tragedy. So let your eyelids grow heavy. Let the warmth of the covers wrap around you like a shield. The past is a strange place, but tonight it's just a story. And as you sink deeper into sleep, remember, you survived the night in 1770 Paris, at least in dreams. Now, rest easy, for the morning brings only sunlight, not leaden nightmares. Good night, and sweet, safe dreams.